A quick and easy way to take this image and make it look like it was shot on infrared film would be to make a grayscale conversion and then add the diffuse glow filter. Now, in order to do this in the most flexible manner possible, I want to start by adding an adjustment layer. The bottom of the Layers panel, I'll click on the Adjustment Layer icon, and I'll choose the Black and White Adjustment Layer. Then we can select from one of the presets. For example, I could use the infrared preset. In this case, I think it makes it a little bit too extreme of a conversion, so I'm going to select my targeted adjustment tool by clicking on the icon, and then I'm going to click and drag to the left in order to reduce the amount of brightness that was applied to the yellows, or basically to move the slider to the left so that when Photoshop converts my yellow tones to grayscale, it doesn't make them so light. I might also want to take down the sky a little bit more, so I'll click and drag to the left there, and you can see that the blues are dragging down. I'm seeing a little bit of banding in the sky, and that's a result of this being a JPEG file. So this is one of the things that you'll want to watch out for. If you do save your files as JPEG, you are compressing them. And when you have a sky like this that really doesn't change its color very much over a large distance, one of the things that you might see is this kind of banding. But if you're working with your own raw files, most likely you're not going to get this banding. If you do, you can just back off a little bit on the sliders to see if that banding will go away. But in this case, I want it to be rather extreme, so I'm definitely going to bring the blues and cyans down. Not only that, but I'm going to be adding a filter that adds grain and noise into the sky, so that's going to help hide that. Let's collapse the Properties panel, and now I want to add the Diffuse Glow filter. Before we go to the filter menu, let's do two things. One, we need to click on the background layer and convert it to a smart object. We'll use our context-sensitive menus. On the Mac, we can hold down the Control key and then click on the word background. Or on Windows, we can use our right mouse click and then convert this to a smart object. Now, some of the filters actually use your foreground and background colors here on your toolbar. So we're also going to want to tap the D key in order to get our default colors, which will put black as the foreground and white as the background. That way, when I choose the filter menu and we go into Filter Gallery, when I go under the Distort filters and I select Diffuse Glow, Photoshop will use the black and white in order to create this glow. So if you've come in here before and had some odd colors in here, it's probably because of your foreground and background color. Now let's use the Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows and tap the 0 key in order to fit this in window. If we want to see it a little bit larger, we can collapse the list of filters to choose from now that we've already selected ours. And then we can change the graininess, glow amount, and clear amount. So again, if I want to make sure that I'm covering up that posterization in the sky, I'll want to add a lot of grain. If we move the glow amount all the way to the left and the clear amount all the way to the right, you can really see that the only change that's being made is the additional grain. But as we move the glow amount to the right, we'll start to see our highlights glow. As we move the clear amount to the left, we can start to see a glow in the midtones and the rest of the image, depending on how much we add. So let's back off a little bit on the glow amount. One of the things you'll notice, of course, is that we're actually viewing the image in color here. And that's because we are working on that smart object on the background layer, which is in color. It's only the black and white adjustment layer that we added on top that's converting this image to grayscale. So that's why we're seeing it in color here. So we'll click OK, and now we can see that Photoshop is showing it to us or previewing it as grayscale. But remember, that's because we've got this black and white adjustment layer. If I don't want to see that, we can toggle it off, or we can toggle it on. This is a nice way to create kind of that infrared look. But of course, the best part about Photoshop is that because we're doing all of this in a non-destructive manner, we can experiment and change other things without worrying about ruining this effect. So for example, I might want to decrease the opacity of the black and white adjustment layer. I'll grab the opacity slider and just back off a little bit to reintroduce a little bit of color into this image. So there you have it, an easy way to take your image to grayscale and add a diffuse glow to emulate infrared with our own creative color twist.